Call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for USD 464. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second it.
You mean the regular agenda?
The regular agenda, I'm sorry.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. We'll move into the presentations. First off, Mr. Peterson with the Heartland.
And Mitch.
Mitch.
I want to preface this. I had a couple questions about this today. This is just informational only, so that everybody kind of knows a little bit about the scope and what the possibilities are down there. And I didn't interpret for it to be a bid process. And so Mr. Peterson knows that. Mitch has been involved with helping us with some of the other scope work down there. And so that's what this is all about.
What I've opened up here are a number of documents that are just supportive to illustrate what we've been through in this process. And initially we came out and just kind of measured the site, looked at the conditions for the existing stands. I know this has changed a little bit. The light pole is now changed to the back. So we've adopted that. The existing concrete pad's a little rough, and it is not deep enough. So we'll pick up this space here. There is enough room there for the 10-row proposal that we've put forward. But anyway, just if we get into what's the site like, I've got pictures for that. We've got our quote, which I don't know who's got that or what.
They have it. They have the one.
Very good.
From last
so
year.
I'm happy to go through that. We've got a drawing to support that quote. And then what Lauren had asked, do you have some pictures to help illustrate what it is that we're proposing? This is a non-elevated unit. It doesn't have a front walkway, but we'll get to one that does. But the key is this is what we call a semi-closed bleacher. This opening underneath the seat is standard for a semi-closed bleacher. Fully closed bleachers will run about 30% more than a semi-closed. So I just want to let you know that's part of this system. But at the aisle, there's no openings. So you've got a fully closed aisle system. So that's safe and easy for people to migrate. You will have ADA cut into this. So that was a good illustration of semi-closed that I had on hand. The other ones I went out and got. This is really close to what we're proposing. It's an elevated stand down in Pomona. This one's a 76-footer. The one we're proposing for you will be either 103 or 115 feet. But it's got the stairs off of one end, and at the other end we're going to see that it has a ramp. At that end, here we're going to flip this. Your ramp, initially we proposed it this way when your light pole was here, but now that the light pole's been moved back, these will flip to match the drawing that we just looked at. This is an older version of that stand. Again, I was just trying to pull some samples illustrating the decking. Yeah, that's a fully closed deck, or excuse me, the front walkway is all we're showing there. How it looks from the side, it's just a pretty simple bleacher. Here's your ADA cutouts. That'll be part of the bleacher as well. I think we had that on the other one as well. So, no, and I didn't realize I'd thrown that into this drawing, so I could have done away with that guy. And then over here, that we covered that. So that's what I brought with me, just to really kind of address any questions you guys might have.
Do you have pictures of the existing?
The existing home
Ours,
side?
yeah, ours, yeah, right.
Gosh, I think I do, Lauren. Hang on.
The visitor.
I'm just gonna back out of here.
You want the visitor side?
Our visitor, yeah, this is visitor.
Well, that was the visitor, what I was showing there.
Right.
All those pictures were the existing visitor.
Where it had notes of the cracked slab and that stuff.
Yeah, that
Okay.
had those.
That-
Let me
that's
go back
what-
to
yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah, I think it was up
I'm
there.
sorry, I breezed through that, but yeah, it's in there.
Okay, yes.
It'll
I'm
be
sorry.
part of this here.
Okay,
There's that. I think this is, here we go. There's the cracked slab. And it really, just to say it's cracked, it's also it's not supported well from the back. It's had erosion back underneath it. So the strength of this thing is compromised right now. They'd have to reinforce to hold that slab. But
Is
with
that
the
a
new,
separate proposal that we need?
that
for
would
the-
be a separate proposal,
Mitch-
yes,
and
I
Mitch
don't
has
have the
that.
concrete
Okay.
with you.
What's your typical, like your ratio between home stand capacity and visitor stand capacity? I'm sure
You
there's
know,
like
I
a
think
range.
if I were to just do a rough one, it's at least 2 to 1, if not more commonly, probably 3 to 1, I would say.
Yeah,
And it just depends on, there's places in town that have so many rivals that they'll do a 2 to 1, where they have a lot more visitors and they want to keep them separated. So they'll increase the visitor side stand to a pretty good size stand.
what does this proposal take us to for
For your seat count?
Yeah,
Um,
versus home.
It's on there.
I thought I had that in the proposal. I put some counts in
It
that.
is.
It
I
might
just
have
didn't
been
know
in
what
the,
our home was.
there it is, 577 in the 103 foot. We would add another 80 to that if it were 115 foot. And as far as the home side, I don't know that I really cracked the number to see what that thing's producing for seat count. I'd have to study that.
And the quote from a year ago is basically the same equipment, just the price increases with.
Yeah, with the materials. Yeah, that's. The one thing I noticed in your home ramp, and I don't know if this is still an issue for your guys, but the planks on this ramp run downhill. And if that continues to be an issue where people are slipping, we could modify or make changes over there. It should be running perpendicular so that you've got traction. You'd know if people were falling, so anyway. But other than that, it's a semi-closed structure as well. So you've got the same decking system on the home side as we would be recommending for the visitor side.
What's the age of our stands, do you know?
Those,
The
the,
eight.
the home side or the visitor?
Both.
Well, the visitors were the old set that were on the visitor side.
Yeah,
Jeez.
those bleachers are old enough that they used to have wood on them, and an aluminum was put on them at one time, and they don't. These are fairly unsafe in terms of today's standards. They don't have this closure in under here. Those openings are wider than because they don't have a riser in them. I'm trying to think of some other pictures. Sorry, I'm
I
not.
think the press box is 2002 build,
'Cause
so
the-
it would have been moved.
Home side has some issues too with it.
Yes.
Like there are areas that flex as you step on it. They flex down and collapse kind of down in.
No.
I haven't been on the
Yeah,
visitor
yeah,
side.
they were looking at it after you said something.
So is this more space than what is it?
Oh, there was. I did have a seat count, 1,500 on the home.
1,500 on home.
On the home side, yeah.
So, what we have now versus the proposal, what's that comparison? Or, are we gaining more,
In what term?
the seat count on the new?
Oh, yes. The current one is it's not 8, or it's only 8 rows if memory is serving me. We can take a look at one of these drawings of that thing.
Is there a reason to go over the 3 to 1 ratio? Because at 1,500, that'd be.
You know,
about
I've never,
500.
it's the first time I've ever been asked the question, so I'm addressing something that it's not the ratio is, you have to look at the seating capacity in terms of, is that overflowing currently? Or do you have games where that's overflowing? Or you have people sitting on the visitor side because they can't see from this side, because this isn't an elevated bleacher. Somebody that wants to see the game, they want to see up over the football team, and none of those seats will do that for them. So you probably have some visitors sitting in the home side right now, I would guess.
Is there any kind of, I kind of was wondering about the same questions as Drew in terms of capacities or mixes, but like if you're going to host some kind of event.
Not necessarily. Well, I shouldn't say that. Depends how deep you get into the playoffs. As you go like regionals, sectionals, sub-state, those numbers increase, and the expectation is that you bring in bleachers to meet that capacity. So that's when you see schools borrowing bleachers, like from other schools, and then they put them in those grass areas like our bullpen or alongside the visiting bleachers. And, or they set them in the end zone, for example, just to try to get those capacities. So we've been awful close on a number of occasions the last 5 years, but
Yeah, in this case, with the proposals in front of us, you'll have 2,000 seats, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the criteria as you go through the district play, is that 2,000 seat
Right.
barometer. You can go a little smaller than this and to get closer to 500 seats. I know we're at 103 feet. If you go to 91 feet, that gets you 500 seats. If it's too big, then we can start working down. And that's an efficient number right there, because the way the aisle configurations work for that, it's an efficient stand if you wanted to go to 91 feet and not pull up. This is 577, the other one would be 500.
and if we went that extra feet, it would be how many? That extra?
Yeah, it's about 80 feet per 12 feet.
Okay.
Or 80 seats per 12 feet of seating.
Okay.
So we added, sometimes you have to add an extra aisle, and that's not very efficient. In this case, we can add 12 feet without taking away an aisle, or adding an aisle.
And this has 4 ADA.
8. There's 4 double notch outs. Your requirement is
double
8
notch.
wheelchairs.
Okay, and then of course the hand railings down each of the.
You're going to have handrails
That's
at all the
required.
aisles. Yep.
I mean, does this cure? I mean, we've had some kind of incidences over there with get visitors in the past
Edges.
few
The
years.
biggest problem we had is what he mentioned, were just the underneath. There was no protection.
Kids, I spent the day giving a presentation at the KAPDF or KDPF, Plant Facility Managers in Topeka, and it had to do with Consumer Product Safety Council in '98 introduced safety standards for bleachers, and the code has addressed new bleachers for years. Just hand over fist, the codes, new bleachers have driven safety, but they didn't do anything for the used bleachers. And the thing they found out was up until that time, over a 15 period, there was an average of 19,000 hospital room visits from bleachers. And the primary cause for it was openings of greater than 4 inches when you're more than 30 inches above grade. This back rail is very well out of code. And then these openings underneath the seats are out of code. And so over the last 20 years, they've been developing codes that go back and address these safety issues. Your insurance company would not like that bleacher right now.
What
for
we were
those
having
conditions.
happen was the edges. People trying to go into the bleachers were catching the edges, like on their shins. That happened twice. Then the railing. We had a person trip.
Yeah, this is,
Didn't get hurt, but fell.
that's not a long ways, but it's long enough
Right.
to get some attention from somebody getting
Started
hurt.
to warp too, where like the front of it's off the ground, so if 6 of us were to step on it, it actually condenses to the ground. And so now I don't know why that's happening, but if you get enough weight on the front, it actually physically rocks and moves.
And that's that concrete slab that's doing that to you. It's not level.
And Mitch has a little bit of information about the concrete
Yeah,
slab he
what I-
handed out. So.
What I gave you guys was just a quick bid we had worked up for basically the site work. So demo and removal of the current bleacher, demo and removal of the concrete pad, some grading work to bring the pad back up to level, and then obviously the concrete work. That would include the bleacher pad, and then also some of the sidewalking that would tie it all into our current sidewalk there on the south end. So that's just kind of just a quick overlap, so at least you got an idea of that cost additional to.
Did you get a quote for those, done the demo?
Yes.
We have the demo in ours, so
Okay.
you've got a little bit extra in that.
Well, I mean, I think it kind of helps. I don't know if there's any other questions. It kind of helps get a picture of needs, and we've been going through this
Oops. didn't mean to-
strategic planning and need to work good together in terms of the capital budget plan. But any other questions for Mr. Peterson or Mitch?
Can't
I do
dilly.
appreciate it.
We have an agenda later on, right?
we do a little bit.
Thank you,
Brett.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Let us know if you have any follow-up questions.
All right, middle school. Or, wait,
Barb.
oh no, Barb, sorry. Got buried in here in my little printer.
Good evening. This is pretty cool. I've never done it like this before. This is very nice. Did everyone get the little flyer that I put? Okay, I just kind of want to go over that. Just wanted to let you know of the past summer's food meals that we served this past summer. Was 8,320 breakfasts and lunch. We continued with the grab and go, and that was an option for us. And we decided to do that so that the women and the staff could stay home with their families Thursday and Friday. So they had every Thursday and Friday off. We could have opted to go into the elementary and eat inside, but we could not do breakfast for the families. We could only do lunch. So after the summer food program, and we had really nice weather, which was so nice this year because we didn't have any issues. After that, we had to quickly refocus to school meals and letting families know that this is a new year and that the Congress did not extend the free meals for students, which puts parents back into the paid, free, and reduced situations. So they had to fill out free and reduced applications, which they had not done for a couple years. It also, due to my review, it brought out some things that in our policies by the USDA that we voted on years ago, the unpaid meal charges needed to be updated. So since I had meals prices go up, I had to increase the negative balance a little bit more so that it would reflect those prices. And that's why you have that for tonight's board meeting. Unfortunately, prices, shortages of food, and cancellation of food items is still a big concern. We did not get white milk today, and we don't know if we're going to get white milk tomorrow. And part of the rules that we need to follow is we have to offer 2 milks every day. We did have enough for today, so we'll deal with that tomorrow morning, but I'm assuming I'll be getting a text sometime tonight about that. Wanted to share with you, we all know that there are labor shortages out there. We're no different than anyone else. To fully staffed TES, as I said, fully staffed is 44 hours. We have 39, and 3.5 of that is a almost full-time sub. We're very grateful for her. TMS fully staffed is 33 hours. They currently have 26.5 hours of staff. And THS is 50 hours with the combined West and East now, and we currently have 40.5 hours of staff. As you can see, we are down in every kitchen, and I mentioned the wonderful sub we have, which helps us so much at the elementary. We are very excited to bring back for the kids the open garden bar, which they can grab as many vegetables that they want every day. We encourage them to do that. The students can choose from fresh romaine, tomatoes, broccoli, cucumbers, and several other vegetables daily. Both myself and my assistant are also working in the kitchens every day where it's needed the most. Unfortunately, this puts us behind in all the necessary things we need to do. However, I do want to let you know that the student nutrition staff is amazing, outstanding, dedicated, committed for your children each day. They are a very fun group, very, very nice people, and I'm very proud of them. I also want to let you know that I am currently in an administrative review, which means that they check everything we do in student nutrition from the number 1 to the 150, whatever they need. It covers everything. The KSDE representative will be here November 8th and 9th to observe and check and conclude their findings as what we've been doing. Please know that the entire student nutrition staff is so dedicated, and I'm very blessed to be working with them. They have been wonderful since a long time, especially during all these challenges, and they are helping feed our kids healthy, fresh, and hot meals so they can learn. We do encourage the kids daily to choose all 5 components that they have offered so that they will be well-rounded. If you have any questions, I'll take them.
And there is a vote tonight. Explained it.
In
The board has
unpaid-
to approve this refer,
The unpaid meal charges.
right,
Mhm.
right. So that's what that action item is.
They won't renew my program renewal without it because I didn't realize, and I don't think I've done this before, but when I change something in the handbook like that, and since it's a USDA policy, they require board approval for that, and so that's what we had to do.
Okay. But they're doing a great job down there, so.
They really are.
So really appreciate what Barb and her staff do.
Was there an increase in free and reduced from the last time that parents had to fill out the free and reduced?
Yes, I believe so. I don't know the actual number,
Yeah,
but
we
we did. You guys may
we
know
looked
the
at it.
number. We opted to do waiver 26, which allowed parents, if they had an application for free and reduced in 1920 or the parameters within that reach, they could get them this year for 30 days as a rollover. And that helps the district too, because they did change the criteria in the free area for
It
free.
increased by over 100.
Oh, is that right? Very good. Glad to hear that.
I mean, that goes into our
Exist-
waiting and stuff for the
Existing families or new families, you know?
Not necessarily. I think some of it's is it the Medicaid
Yeah,
system?
they
It was how they were able to sign up for it, and there were some incentives, I think, through the federal government. I'm not real sure how that all.
I don't
worked.
know about that, but in the direct certification through the state, we usually had around 4 pages of names. That increased to 10, about 8 to 10, because the free kind of moved into the direct cert because they had Medicaid F, which is free, and Medicaid R. And so you all, they got approved for that. Then we had our free, and then we had our reduced.
Yeah.
So,
But it had a big effect on our weightings with the additional free. I mean, it helps.
one of the challenges, though, that was really hard is that Skyward does a rollover every year. And with that rollover, with the 1920 stuff, it's been done for 2 years. So it was going back and looking at a lot of families, and a lot of things changed in the past 2 years. So it was good for the district. So I'm glad we did it.
Right.
Well, thanks for all your hard work and
Yeah.
updating this,
thank
and
you.
thanks your staff.
Yes, I will definitely tell them that. They're great.
All right.
I don't
Thank you.
See any other questions? Thank you. All right, now the middle school. All right.
Hello. How are you? Good, how are you?
Alright, we're covering middle school stuff tonight. Figured just a quick handout would be a little bit more, just
Thank you.
a better overview than the whole PowerPoint presentation, so. I'd like to introduce, I don't know how many of you guys have had the opportunity to meet Hayes, but Hayes Farwell is the new addition at the middle school. He's the assistant principal, and we're off to a really good start. So we got lucky, really good, strong hire with Hayes. So thank you. Yeah. So middle school, we're off to a good start this year. We honestly, we just kind of picked up with the school year where we left off last year. We only had to hire 2 teachers. One of our teachers went to the high school for the gifted program, so left middle school to go to the high school. And then one of our teachers came to the high school to be the dean. So we were able to bring in 2 of our student teachers to fill those openings. So we were able to just kind of keep everything in-house. So we were able to start off the year without a lot of hiccups. So kind of picked up where we left off. We have 3 goals, and our goals basically fell under an umbrella of professional learning communities. So professional learning communities is, you're going to hear a lot of ABCs. We have PLCs. Our professional learning communities are our grade level teams. So our 6th grade team, our 7th grade team, and our 8th grade team. But we also have professional learning communities within our content team. So math teachers, science teachers, English teachers, those kinds of things. So we wanted to really focus on polishing everything with our teams. So that's our 3 goals fall under the umbrella of our professional learning communities, because we really want the teachers to be involved with the learning and the doing and the process. That information shouldn't always come from us. That learning and the professional development should come from each other. So we kicked off the school year. Hayes and I met with our BLT, our Building Leadership Team, and we met in July to kind of get this process started. So our BLT, or Building Leadership Team members, are also our PLC leaders. So we have a member from the 6th grade team, 7th grade team, 8th grade team, a member from the math team and the reading team, and we all are a part of the Building Leadership Team. So we all we developed these goals together, and then they go in to their teams. They meet in their teams 4 times a week. So we're able to hit our goals and kind of our steps 4 times a week. So we really polished the ways that we've used our professional learning communities. And the 3 big goals that we are wanting to push out is really looking at data. And that's all types of data. That's map data, that's formative assessments in the classroom, that's attendance data, discipline data. There's all types of information that really gives us a whole picture of the student. We also wanted to roll out curriculum, really polishing our curriculum, looking at our standards, picking out those essential standards, really polishing our scope and sequence. So that was another goal to really push through our professional learning communities. And then the 3rd goal was building that positive school culture. We already have that established, but we want to maintain that. And we also really want to make sure that we have a good culture for our students as well. We've got a great thing going on with our staff, but middle school is hard, so we want to make sure that we are making sure that it's a welcoming environment for our students as well as our staff. So utilizing the teachers to roll out the goals. We're hitting data, curriculum, and culture, like I said, 4 times a week. So we meet with our Building Leadership Team twice a month, so then we can kind of hit our monthly goals. We have kind of our overview goals that we created in July that we said we really want to button down on data. We really want to button down on curriculum. We really want to continue with our positive culture. So then twice a month, we meet with our Building Leadership Team to kind of come up with some talking points and some goals. And then they take that back to their teams and they roll that out. So all of the learning, all of the creating, all of the data dives, all of the curriculum, all of that is being driven by our teachers. They take that back and they're utilizing that in their teams. So, like I said, so the big one that we're looking at these information every day is our data. We have the big picture trends. We want to be able to see the big picture. What are our 6th graders doing? What are our 7th graders doing? What are our 8th graders doing? And then more importantly, where are some of those gaps? You know, where are some things that we can identify that we need to really laser focus in some certain areas? So that is where we can utilize our team time during the week. Our teachers have that time 4 times a week to be able to look at student data and figure out and identify where those gaps are. We started implementing a new program this year called ExactPath. Teachers are excited about it. They're inputting MAP scores and they're able to get individualized information for each kid. We have another training next week to really boost that. Teachers are already utilizing that, and then we have another round of training next week so we can kind of jump in even further. So lots of data work, conversations. Once we kind of see where our kids are, then we can kind of shift and focus on the curriculum that that the kids are covering. So
before I talk about that, as Casey said, we kind of had our individual goals we set at the beginning of the year, but now that we're rolling, the reason we want to talk about these PLCs is because they really are just the lifeblood of our school. It's kind of all encompassing when it comes to how they affect our good teaching, how they affect the culture of the school. Our teachers are where the rubber meets the road with the whole vibe of the school. So I'm coming from 2 large 6A schools, and I've led PLC meetings at both of those schools as a science teacher. And because they're large schools, that means our PLCs are always, all the biology teachers and all the chemistry teachers and all the physics teachers are together. So what we're focusing on there is really just, we divide into our subgroups. The biology teachers are deciding, the best way to teach biology to the kids. That's not the case here. At Tonganoxie Middle School, the PLCs are those grade level teams and our elective teams, and so their focus is just the kids. Like, I have been shocked at just that is what 4 days a week, it's all these different ways that they can just make the best environment for the kids. I'll talk about Warrior Times in a second, Warrior Time clubs, but I just had to laugh with Casey. We had to ask our teachers how often they wanted to meet with Warrior Time clubs, which is just where we're giving kids the opportunity once a week to do something of interest to them. Lego club, drawing club, all these different things. And the teachers were the ones that came to us and said they wanted to meet every week, which I thought was crazy, because normally it's like you have to beg your teachers to meet once a month with Warrior Time clubs or something like that. And they are saying, no, we want to see these kids every single week. So specifically, as I dive into curriculum here with our second point, what are our PLCs doing with that? Their curriculum would just be, what are they doing to create the better learning product for the kids? So the student focus, they've gotten this map data back, and our teachers are taking that map data and they're saying, how do we shape the teaching the rest of the year to best fit what the data shows us? If our kids are low in this specific point, how can we incorporate that throughout the rest of the year? And so we have the map data on reading and math, and it's all of our teachers that take that data and try to figure out, how do I incorporate that in my curriculum? So even though we don't have a social studies math assessment, they are saying, if we're low in this aspect of reading comprehension, how can I get that fit as we go through the rest of the year? So it really is just a team vibe of saying, we're all in this together. How can we, what do we need to do moving forward? That second bullet point, cross-curricular lessons and activities, that's, I think, maybe the best thing that comes from having just the whole 6th grade team together or whatever. They are trying to think about, how can we incorporate social studies and math, science, how can we mix lessons together? Like, how can we cross-curricular, how can science class still help out with these other disciplines? And that's pretty nice because, like I said, in my previous PLCs, you're pretty focused on your specific subgroup or your specific curriculum, and I'm not worried about what's going on in social studies. I've been worried about my things. So the last two, how are our teachers in PLCs, focusing on curriculum, project-based learning, and learning-focused conversations is just, teaching is changing. It's getting away from just on the stage that's just talking at the kids for 40 minutes and you need to remember what I say and memorize that. It is, how can we continue to adapt teaching to our kids' needs, project-based learning, hands-on activities, things that are inquiry-based learning. All these are just buzzwords for how do we make this stuff as interesting as we can to the kids so that they are investing, some energy and actually wanting to learn. Doesn't mean we're just saying, how do we make school fun all the time? Not the case, but how do we actually make it interesting to where they are investing in themselves? The bottom there, the staff focus for curriculum. So we just got all of our map data back, but I think the next kind of big, exciting rollout Casey and I have planned is that we are really going to use PLCs to kind of shape and modify our existing scope and sequence and just curriculum maps. And so what that means is just we really want to clean up for our teachers. What are they going to learn in 6th grade social studies? We want to break it down to these concepts and standards are covered first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and just having our teachers. And luckily, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The teachers are already teaching it, but we can really see what different districts have put together and kind of shape both what we already have or modify. But we're going to really clean up and implement big picture. What is their curriculum covered in each one of those classes? As I jump over to the positive school culture that our PLCs really shape, I kind of talked about Warrior Time Club. That second bullet point for student support, on the back of this sheet, Casey put together just our overview of the week for what our PLCs are focusing on. So Mondays, team time, that's when we're doing IEPs for students with individualized educational plans. Tuesdays, kid concerns, Hazel visit. I think that's a big deal because inevitably when you have groups of PLCs working together, there's always kid concerns. That's a big aspect of it. So Casey already had this when I came in here, but on Tuesdays I go around to every single PLC, 6th grade, elective, 7th, 8th, and we take the time to say, talk to me about specific kids. Like, is it behavior? Is it we have a new kid popping up on a grade report that is now failing 3 classes that we haven't seen in the past couple of weeks? So we incorporate that time where, you know, we can get ahead of it. If we know teachers are going to need to vent or talk about certain kid concerns, I'm just coming in on Tuesdays so that we can have that as the specific agenda and have a day dedicated to that. So then on the next day when we have a block and we're dedicated to professional development to make ourselves better as educators, that can be the focus rather than some kid concerns. We already have that out of the way. So I thought that was just wise to have that, a specific day dedicated to that time. And then the last thing, just I can't preach enough how much our teachers invest in these kids. So student shout outs, increased social events, lunch groups, book clubs. Our different PLC teams sponsor a dance. Like, those people are sharing the load for who is doing all these things that make the school experience really cool for the kids, but it takes a lot of work. Like, it takes a lot of work to put together the October Halloween dance. And the teams rotate who are going to cover what dances or what events, concession stands. They just are, I am surprised how just selfless and genuinely invested these teachers are. It's been really cool to see. Lunch groups and book clubs, that's another one where, you know, we've got a ton of kids that once a week they're going to a teacher's classroom for a book club. I don't know if they're actually reading the book or if they just want to get away for a lunch. And then lunch groups, we have both kids that we pull, but again, those teachers are coming to our counselors and different people and saying, we would like this kid to be in a specific lunch group because we think it's important that they're talking with an adult, like whether they just might not get very much attention or whether there's something we're looking out for where we want to get them in a small group setting once a week to get to have lunch with them and make sure that someone's really forming a good relationship with that kid. So all this just fits under the umbrella for what our teachers are doing as these PLCs, and I just think it's the lifeblood of our school. So I couldn't be more excited for the first couple of months that I've been here to see how well of a thing you guys could have going at Tonganox Central School.
We, on that backside, it just kind of highlights some of the things that we are doing in the PLCs. Under that data, I just kind of plugged it in there, that schedule is very, very intentional on how we rolled that out. Mondays is, team time in the past could always be a good opportunity for teachers to plan a baby shower for the teacher that was pregnant or talk about the Chiefs game. So there wasn't a lot of intentionality in some of the PLC conversations that were happening. Needed to shift that focus a little bit. So on Mondays, that is set for, having conversations about students that maybe are struggling in reading and how can we utilize reading into science a little bit more and social studies a little bit more. So those are more just kind of general conversations on Monday. It's kind of the opportunity to nuts and bolts, get all the details out of the way. Tuesdays is always kids' concerns. Wanting to, again, we're trying to make this a good environment for all students. So what can we do to help better the kids in the building? That block day, we have block days on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And this is an opportunity where team time is always 90 minutes. And so what can you utilize 90 minutes for? That's going to be where we really do more professional development. On our school calendar, we have 5 or 6 professional development days built into our school calendar. But teachers want to learn from each other. So we've been able to build in 90 minutes of professional development into each week. So as a BLT, we come up with topics that the teachers want to learn a little bit more about. Or that might be something that I push out. We find something and we push that out to the teams and say, hey, dive into the specific data, look at this particular information. So that gives us 90 days a week of professional development where the teachers are learning together. And then I go in on Fridays to just kind of wrap up, see if they have any questions over the learning. So it's really polished some of the things that it's really pushing and speeding up the process in the ways our teachers are learning. So in the middle, you can see the curriculum there. Our teachers are working together to create learning targets, the objectives for the day, and they're pushing each other to kind of find those, and they're displaying it in their classrooms. So these pictures are just me hopping around the classroom, and it's not something that I'm mandating or pushing. It's just good instruction, and they're implementing that. So, and then climate and culture. We have a safe and inviting space. Our kids are learning with each other. They're working collaboratively, and our teachers like each other as well. So it's always kind of an added bonus. Yeah, it's a quick overview of what's going on in the middle school.
Thank you. Questions?
No?
You guys know where to find me.
Appreciate it. Welcome, Hayes.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Aaron?
All right. B. There we go. Good evening.
Aaron?
All right. Update on the high school bond project. We are again. Starting out with budget, a little budget update. Overall bond fund summary remains unchanged from last month. The district contingency detail have a few updates on the district GMP contingency. You can see several change orders came through with the one that was approved by the board last month, and a few others that are detailed out on the attached change order log. Still forecasting. There's some other change orders that are floating out there of things that have been identified that we're just waiting on pricing to come in on. A few still related to West Campus work, and a few miscellaneous details over at the new gym. The soft cost contingency, the current amount is showing lower than last month. That is due to the approved work orders that the board approved last month for the CTE design and the additional Eskin Associates management fees. So that's where that's showing up there. On the district project contingency, forecasting a lower amount there. That is forecasting the potential amount of the CTE renovations, just showing you what that would look like, knowing that we're kind of easing into that process there. And then no changes on the facility improvement allowance. As far as substantial completion dates, again, still on track, shooting for that 12/28 substantial completion date for the gym, fitness, and wellness edition. Weather days, month of September, no change to claimed weather days. Again, there are a total of 8 allowable additional days on this phase of the construction, but as I said, everything remains on schedule. They've been able to absorb those so far. Flipping over to testing and inspections, I'll go into this a little more detail down below, but the topping slab floor flatness re-pour was tested last week, and functional commissioning testing is still scheduled to begin on November 15th or possibly earlier. Doing really well on that schedule as of right now. Other upcoming key milestone dates, casework, the target date on that was 10/6, so that is underway. The hallway topping slab, I did not talk to McCown Gordon to see if that got poured this morning.
I think it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. Parking lot curb and gutter coming up here in the next week or two, followed by bleacher install towards the end of October. The parking lot base asphalt and topping asphalt will be going down in early November. Early November will also be the lockers, and then the final polishing of the concrete, and final finishes, the carpet and the gym finishing and striping. The FF&E install is on schedule. Everything's scheduled to be delivered on 12/15. Moving into key outstanding risk issues and changes. Again, just keep on track with updating on punch list and warranty with each report. So we talked at our OAC meeting last week about scheduling an 11-month warranty review of the Learning Center addition. So we'll be performing that here sometime this month. Still a few kind of warranty issues that have popped up here and there throughout the last 10 months or so, which as they come up, McCowan is usually handling, so I don't expect that 11-month warranty walk to reveal anything major. Kind of a benefit of still having them close by. The athletics and West Campus furniture and FF&E, again, everything is confirmed and on track for December 15th. The training room equipment, gym scores, tables, and chairs are on site, being stored by Mitch and his crew. Will be ready to be installed here as soon as those spaces are finished up. Polished concrete floor flatness. So there's kind of a lot written here. Summary is they poured that topping slab in the clear story. There was a small section of it while the overall test came back on the floor flatness. The floor levelness did not meet spec. It was really mainly due to one area right in front of the trophy case entrance to the gym. We were having discussions about what that remedial action would be. While we were having those discussions, they noticed that area was starting to crack and did a little investigation, and the topping slab in that area was not thick enough. So they ended up tearing out all the topping slab area, and they report it on Thursday. I do not have the final report yet, but talked to PSI this morning, and they confirmed it was a 5533 or 5733. So to remind everybody, the spec was 3525. So you got a super flat, what they call super flat floor. And so third time's a charm. So everything tested out. They will be pouring those hallways. Again, as a reminder, those are being poured in little 16-foot sections so they can, because they can't get their big electronic equipment in there, so they're going to pour them in smaller sections so they can finish them and level them out. So one more hurdle there. And I'll follow up with that report. We should get it. The person at PSI was out of the office until tomorrow.
So I got a quick question here.
Yeah.
So if we talk about a floor that's got a thickness issue and cracking, what was the resolution to make that better?
They tore it out and reported it.
At the same thickness?
No, it was supposed to be 2 inches thick in that one area. So the levelness, the reason the levelness did not meet the spec was they somehow messed up their laser screed when they went to screed that section, and they set it wrong, so they set it too low.
Okay.
So they screeded off too much material,
Okay.
and that area was thinner.
So about a quarter inch.
Yeah, so it being thinner there was the cause of
the
both
cracking.
the levelness not meeting spec and then the subsequent
Right.
cracking.
Correct. So they could have come and just cut out the thin section, but they knew that there's a chance that it would not match from a polished concrete finish, you know, the appearance of it. So they tore it all
Sounds
out.
like the right thing was done then.
Yeah. Okay, CTE classroom improvements. Read here, we held a kickoff meeting with DLR last week. We have just scheduled an on-site review with all of DLR's team and the teachers. We'll sit down with the teachers for a few minutes each and just kind of re-review what that scope is to get DLR started on that design. We are expecting to complete design by on or about December 14th, call it mid-December, to start bidding and permitting, and expect to bring it to the February board meeting for a GMP approval of the construction part of the work. With that said, prior to February, you know, we've been talking about procurement issues. So we did confirm today with the AV equipment that there are 6 to 8 month lead times on some of that AV equipment. With that, they told us today some of the stuff we bought for the high school, those specific models have been discontinued. So we're working on getting an updated quote on that right now and working with Forrest on figuring out what those substitutions should be. But would like to bring that to the board next month to get approval to release those items for the long lead time. The quote we have right now for the 6 rooms, the 4 rooms in the CTE and the 2 rooms in TPAC is $62,000. That may go up or down slightly depending on these substitutions that have to be made.
And
So-
we're going to table that. I think there's an item on the action, but we'll just table
We're not
when
yet,
we
not
get to
asking
that.
for action tonight. Don't have the final quote. Like I said, we have to make some adjustments, but want to give you guys that information to process before next month. In addition, the furniture, again, lead times will be kind of tight, but Scott Rice did tell me they do expect a manufacturer price increase in January. So for both a lead time and a cost standpoint, would like to bring that in December for the board to approve the furniture order. Right now, that quote stands at $80,000. We are going to have discussions, see, you know, if there's that was the first number we got to when we were going through this a year ago. We didn't spend any time trying to talk about adjustments or alternates.
Can I ask you a question on that polished concrete?
Yeah.
The couple weeks that it took to redo that, was that a critical path item, or is that going to impact the schedule, do you think?
No, it was, no, not really critical path. But they, you know, once they identified the cracking, they had it torn out in about 3 days and report it the next day. So the turnaround on it was pretty quick. They really, I mean, everything else in that clear story area is done.
Okay.
You know, they got the ceiling done, the lights are in, the walls are painted.
So it didn't hold
So-
anything else up?
Yeah, it was really just access to the gym they were worried about, and they just worked around that for the week.
Okay.
So project design enhancements. So just kind of following up on the earlier discussion with the bleachers, as Lauren's talked about before, kind of part of that, the bleachers, the fencing. So we're gonna sit down next week with Lauren and Mitch and Cody and revisit all of the fencing options and pricing that we did a year ago. And that is something that I know Lauren wants to continue discussions with on the what can happen there and what needs to happen there. Other than that, got the change order detail log attached. A few photos, update photos. Got the chieftains painted on the wall down to the locker rooms. The administration hosted a signing little activity for all the kids to come sign the floor and before the gym floor went down. So I hear that was very popular and a lot of fun. There's casework going in. This is the concessions area, that the stripes on the floor you see there prior to the epoxy flooring, so that should have some epoxy floor down. This was taken last Wednesday. And then the south side of the building here, you can see they're starting to get cleaned up and graded for parking lot and asphalt. That is all I have. Any other questions? I do want to point out that the T is not supposed to be black. Working on it. But it's nice that the microphone works.
Yeah, it works good.
So,
Baby steps.
baby steps. Okay.
We're on the downhill, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up all the presentations. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. Jump into public forum, no public comments. Superintendent's report.
And I'm going to push through this pretty quickly because I don't want any board members walking out during the middle of the meeting, so bear with me. And if you do have any questions for clarification, just let me know, okay? All right, so Tonganoxie Rec Commission lease agreement, I met with Angie and Brad once and Brad twice, and I should have that lease with all the markups changes back next week, and then Brad and I will sit down and go over it again, and then Brad's going to take it to his board of directors meeting on October 19th. And then it'll come to our November board meeting for final approval. I threw this bus referral out there as just an option for us to consider. And this is very similar to somebody making a referral for an employment. And if you looked at the paperwork, it's not easy. I mean, you have to go through the entire process to get the bonus. It's something that some school districts are using as incentive. As you know, we're just not getting any applicants for bus drivers, and we thought the best way to get some referrals is through word of mouth. Bus drivers knowing family members and other bus drivers. So we put it together. Becky helped with that. Audra has worked on that, and of course Jill. And we're just trying to see if this is something the board would like for us to put out. So that's why it's an action item later on. Competition wrestling mats. We had an opportunity through Coach Delich to purchase 2 varsity mats. One that and once again we have some time on this because these won't even be available until after the state wrestling tournament. But I did put in what they cost. They're about 25% less because they're used at the state wrestling tournament. The school district would certainly buy one. The other one, the wrestling team has offered to fundraise or find donations for if the board decides that, or we would buy both. Once again, I think the board has a lot of time to decide that so that they don't have to go out and fundraise and do all the donation seeking. But as you see, we will next year, not this year, next year, we would have 2 varsity competition mats. One would be red and the other one, I think, white is how they look. And there's the cost there. Open house, I've been working with Becky and Kaya on that, and she's been helping me with just the planning for this. We've settled on the date of January 16th, and we will bring a lot more information forward on what that evening is going to look like, and we're kind of excited about how that's coming around. And so we'll bring some more plans back to you as soon as we can. A lot of it is going to be, without getting into a whole lot of details, I mean, we just don't have time to go into that, but we're going to bring back more information for you all very soon. And we'll be sending some out to you for your review also. Playground interviews were completed this past week. They're meeting again here pretty quickly. Mr. Mann and the committee have been keeping me highly updated on how that's proceeding. I think the committee is going to come before the board at the November board meeting and make a recommendation. And so they interviewed 4 different companies last week in a day-long set of interviews. Budget projections, I met with Randy Torrance from Greenbush, who helps us with the financial services, and we already started diving deep into next year's budget. And we'll continue doing that. Our numbers are up. We wanted to see how that affected. Free is, up. How does that change our weightings? And we're going to meet again in January, continue to dive into that as we move forward. The MAP data presentations will be made in January, because we'll have next month the high school will be giving a presentation, and then they want to come back as a team and talk about their MAP scores and spend some time with that. Second page real quick, site council I have set up for October 19th. I attended the Kansas Missouri Superintendent Leadership Conference last week. The Girl Scouts of America went very well. Jill did a great job. I think it went off without a hitch. There was a lot of people, as I was told.
One of those buses came down my cul-de-sac. They got turned around. I don't know what they were.
And here's just an update on facilities and grounds. I continue to meet with Mitch. Still don't have the Ford truck. Still don't have any buses. Nothing has come in. It's been over a year and a half. The 1-ton truck, I went in there today. 5 kids got it all tore up and got the engine out. They're ready. They're excited to put the new engine in, and so they're doing great up there. We're looking at a transportation storage shed for Jill, because the one that's currently up there by the TES playground or parking lot is leaking. The roof is just about shot on that. Mitch is getting a bid on the Gator, and I did talk to Mr. Van about using the smaller Gator. He would be very excited and thrilled to have an opportunity to have that machine, as opposed to the golf cart that he parks in his hallway and plugs in for several hours. And if you want to walk down the music hallway, there's a golf cart in the hallway, because they can't keep the batteries charged. So that's all that.
The fact that golf cart hasn't been driven around inside the school is amazing.
I'm a little I think hopefully the key's out of it.
It doesn't sound like it. Hardly runs.
Transportation quotes, I just put them out there for your review. You guys can see how expensive they are. But they are 14 passenger. You don't have to have a CDL. A lot of schools are going to these, and if you buy them, if they're yellow with a stop sign, they can go on routes, okay, and used for activities. If they're white, like most of them are, like hotel, they can't go on a route, and they're probably more comfortable than a bus, but that's what people are doing. You just can't find them, and they're a year and a half out. If you even ordered one now from Midwest Bus or Ford or GMC, I think these are GMCs, it's a year and a half before delivery. And the last thing I have on here is, vision, mission, goals. We continue to work on that path. Becky's been helping Tanya and I with that in, I think, next month, or was it December? Yeah, which one?
We're getting that website rolled out first.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So kind of pushed through that pretty quick. But if you have any questions, I appreciate people sending me questions like today. That helps so much when people send me questions in advance, and I can help clarify some of those for you. So thank you for doing that. All right.
Any questions for Lauren? Tanya.
All right. I wanted to give you an update on our September 20th numbers. The head count, we are at 1946 students, and the count last year was 1904. So we are up 42 in our head count, and that's the number of students actually attending in our schools. FTE is the full-time equivalency. So for example, if a student only comes half-time, they're a 0.5. So our FTE was 1903.8, and then last year it was 1863.5. So we are up 40.3 FTE, which is great. However, the adjusted FTE, which is the 3-year average, and that does not count our 4-year-old at risk or virtual or CAM students, the adjusted FTE is down, and that is because the prior 2 years were very low. We were down several students. So our 3-year average is lower. We're down 72.5, but our head count and our FTE are trending up. So that is excellent.
So next year, if we
Next year.
hold those bad years will start to roll
Right,
off.
and that's what we're looking at.
Yes.
This is what impacts, the down 72 is what impacts the budget though, right?
Right. But next year, if those numbers go up, then we can use those averages. The highest would be what we would use for our budget for 23, 24. Yeah.
All right, we've got October professional development coming up. Casey and Hayes talked about some of that. We will have the letters training for grades K through 3. That will take up all of their day. That is their second full day of training, and that is a 2-year process. The essential standards are something that we are continuing to work on. We'll work with 4th grade through high school, identifying essential standards and then working on those. And then we'll have another training on exact path. That was what Casey had referred to, that provides that path. It utilizes the MAP data, and then it provides a path for students that need that intervention. So we'll have more training on that in October. I did include the fall MAP growth data, and that compared fall of last year to fall of this year. Obviously, our scores are not where they need to be, but I am confident that with all of the initiatives that we have going on, the letters training, the PLC training, essential standards, exact path, that we are going to be on an upward trend. Also in your packet, there later on in the approval or the approval portion of the agenda, we have the resolution, approval of the resolution adopting the Kansas Homeland Security Region L Hazard Mitigation Plan. So there are 3 counties in Region L, that is Leavenworth, Wyandotte, and Johnson County. And the Kansas Division of Emergency Management's Planning and Mitigation Branch pulls together these plans. So every region has a hazard mitigation plan. Basically, the emergency management is in charge of that. They put it together, they write it, and then school districts and cities all sign on to it. We have the signature sheet done, but we were lacking the resolution, and so I think we were one of the last districts to gather the resolution information and put that together. So that's what you have in your packet for approval. That actually allows us, if we had a natural disaster in the area, it would allow us to access FEMA funds. So that's one of the main purposes for participating in that. All right, any questions?
On the MAP data, it says observed growth. That's any growth, not growth goal, right?
Right. There's observed growth, and then they have a projected school growth. There's all kinds of categories there to look at, but a lot of times what we'll look at is the number of students who met their growth projections or their growth goal, and that, that helps us identify those students who met that growth goal, but the observed growth would be other students included in that too.
So if they made 1 point of growth or 30 points of growth, it's all within that observed growth?
Yes.
Then you go to grade level norms. Projected school growth is then what the target was. Is that right?
Right. Well, right. That's what. Now this is a nationally normed test. So as a nation, the projected school growth would be, that's what that grade level is projected to score in that specific area. So if
it
it's
says
math.
projected school growth for each grade.
Yes.
Is that grade level norms?
Yes, that's under grade level norms,
Okay.
projected school growth. And so if you look at the conditional school growth index, if it's a negative number, that means we didn't quite reach our projected growth. The smaller the numbers or the smaller the difference, better. So if you're at a 0 on that, or you're close to 0, that's flat. And that's being the same, the same as others. Anything above a plus would be you achieved over your growth goal.
Right. How does this consistent with years past? Is this trending up or trending level or down from years past?
You know, it varies by grade level. In some grade levels, it's hard to measure or hard to look at and compare. Like it's very difficult to compare first grade to this year, first grade to last year, and so on. It's a different group of kids, number one, but
yeah, that's why if you look at like over the more years you have, the more you can see.
Right.
But you could be looking at first grade last year to second grade this year, following that grade level.
Right.
To
And
see,
this
are they still continuing to make their projected growth?
Yes, this report shows last year from fall to this year in fall. So the first grade that you see would have been kindergarten last year, now first grade. And second grade would be first grade.
Which is why
into
kindergarten
second.
is blank.
Kindergarten does not test in the fall because their skills are learning how to sit in their chair, walk in the hall.
Okay.
It is not typically appropriate for them to test that first test session. They typically will start in the winter session.
Okay, I thought you said it was fall to fall. So that
This report, yes.
The very last slide actually has a really good, it talks about the definitions of all those metrics.
Yeah.
I haven't studied
Yes.
it yet, but that last slide's really good, Drew.
There is also a video too that helps walk through some of this, and I can send you the link to that. And you know, a lot of times just looking at these and percentage and standard of error, it's kind of hard to understand or grasp. And this is one report. The reports that are more applicable to our teachers and our buildings are really digging down to the student level. So looking at the individual student, have they met their growth goal? Why not? What areas were they deficient in? There's also a really good report in here that's a learning continuum. So you can take every individual student and look at their learning continuum that shows all of their gaps, all their strengths, all their weaknesses. What should we be teaching them now? What should we be teaching them next? So those reports are more helpful than looking at just the big data picture like this. And when we come in January to give this report, the buildings are going to be very specific with you about exactly how they use this data and how it helps them inform their instruction. It's not just trying to hit a target, not just shooting a number out there and trying to hit that. It's really looking at individual students and using this information to help them get better.
how many years of I know the different buildings have been doing MAP for different. They started at different times. So about when did each of them start doing the MAP data?
You know, they used to do MAP before I got to the district in 2009. And that was the year that they had stopped doing MAP. So we had a few years without MAP, and then we started adding it back. At one point we went to Ames Web for a while, then we switched back to MAP because it provided better information for us. The middle school jumped on it first, and then the elementary. The high school is just now, this is their second year of MAP, although the math data for the high school, we started out giving the individual course. Instead of doing the MAP growth, we did individual course, like an Algebra 1 math test, Algebra 2 math test, Geometry math test. And we realized that wasn't what we wanted to do. So we made that switch. So now we will start seeing that growth data for math. Science is starting to use it this year, more to inform their instruction rather than showing, you know, how much my kid has grown over time. It's showing very specific skills in science so we can inform our instruction. But we will have more information for you in January. The buildings will provide that specific information for us on exactly how they use the data and what they're doing in their buildings. So I think that will be a lot more informative than just showing a big blanket report for a district.
So and then when is there a spring MAP?
Yes, high schools typically just do a fall spring, but elementary through middle does fall winter spring.
I think if you do fall, spring, you're missing out on some important information that could be utilized before they go to graduate or be at the end of their year or whatever.
When we initially looked at that though, MAP actually advised us and Greenbush advised us that it was more appropriate at the high school level to do fall, spring instead of the winter also.
Are you putting any interventions in place in the high school?
Yes, they have math lab and English lab. And so they use those scores to put those students into groups, and it's actually an elective course that they take. And a lot of the information from the MAP test feeds into that exact path, and they use that as a portion of their instruction, not the whole. Instead of, it's not totally, here's this computer and just get busy on this. They use that as just a portion, and then it's direct teacher instruction on the rest of the skills that they're lacking.
So then we see there'll be a presentation on the fall in, after the first year, right, in January? Then when does the spring then presented?
As soon as we take, usually the MAP in the spring is given in early May.
Okay.
So after, it will likely be June at the
Okay.
June board meeting by the time we get the scores back. I don't know that we'll have it ready for the May board meeting.
Yeah. I know my kids, they knew their stuff like when they were that same day.
Right, they'll know their individual, but we won't know district-wide. You'll have students who are absent.
Right,
We'll
right.
have to make up tests. So we always wait until all of the students have completed before we print our reports.
Okay.
So we'll present in January with whole group, and that'll be a report that's really focused on KISA and what we're doing for our 5th year of KISA to wrap up our accreditation cycle. And then in the spring, we'll have the MAP data at the June board meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tanya? Seeing none, we'll move into action items. 5.1 is the mitigation plan that we just talked about, I believe. So is there a motion related to action 5.1?
Move that we approve action item 5.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carried. The student handbook, I think Barb updated us on that. Is there a motion related to item 5.2?
Move that we approve action item 5.2.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. 5.3 we will table until the November meeting. That's the CTE audiovisual. And item 5.4, I mean, Lauren and I talked about this. I don't know. I mean, it's the referral bonus.
Do we need to
Since it's a change in
vote to
our
table it?
compensation policy, we have to, if we want to take action on that, we would have to approve that. I don't know if there's any other discussion on that, or if anybody, people have a chance to look at that. I know we're down 4 or 5 route drivers and challenged to fill all those positions.
My recommendation is to give it a shot. We don't have a lot of options, guys. I mean, maybe this might help with the word of mouth, and I think we put enough into it that it's just not an easy bonus pickup. I mean, you have to go through the entire process, drive, and be a successful driver for us. So that's where we're at.
My experience with employee referrals is they generally don't drive the numbers you wish they did, but they drive a lot of quality applicants. So I don't know that it's. I think it'd be worthy to try.
Yeah. I move that we approve 5.4.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. Okay, we have one short item on executive session. I just moved that we think 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 is fine.
15.
No, don't. We'll lose.
I move we adjourn into executive session for 5 minutes, invite Lauren in to have preliminary discussions regarding acquisition of real estate. I guess that's not that relates to. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, we'll be back real quick.
Really was 5 minutes.
We should have Chiefs game every board meeting. Alright, call the meeting back into session. No action item from executive session. With that, we do need to talk about possible dates for capital outlay. I don't know if you guys need anything from us from the goals and any of that stuff too, but I'll send out an email to everybody and I'll try to propose a couple dates, and if you can get back to me as soon as possible, we'll get something settled on that and move forward. Otherwise, I think we're done for tonight. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.